Welcome to this week's episode of the Success Realtor Podcast by yours truly, Colleen Wood. Here is where we celebrate success in real estate and share the wisdom and struggles so others can be successful too. If you're a new listener, I'm the producing branch manager of the Wood team at Hometown Lenders, and I'm known for helping realtors earn a lot more money in commissions without selling their soul to the industry and while maintaining balance with what's most important in life. I am over the moon to be talking to our super knowledgeable guest today, Christina Lippert, realtor with Century 21 Hometown Brokers out of Billings, Montana. She's also a mama of four, a renovation and flip expert, and interior designer. Welcome, welcome. I'm so excited to be visiting with you today.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm excited to be talking with you about all this fun stuff this morning.
Well, this is going to be a great conversation, you guys. I was so excited to learn more about Chris and what it is that she does. She brings such a different element to the table with her background and her knowledge. So we're just going to dive right into our questions. So Chris, when you were little, what did you want to be when you grew up?
So anything that had to do with art, I love art. So I started out venturing into doing hair, and that took me way longer and down the road further than I ever thought it was gonna. And I'm at 24 years of being a hairstylist, but I finally got to the point about 2 years ago where I thought, I've had this run. It's on to the next one. What do I want to be when I grow up? And so it kind of turned from helping people decorate rooms to realizing, hey, it's kind of fun to help people like realize the potential of a house when I was buying my own house 4 years ago. And then it just kind of took a crazy turn and a moment of, let's try this. And we bought a house and renovated it. And the rest is history. Now I'm fully immersed into helping people with real estate and flipping houses.
That's amazing. That's amazing. It's amazing to me how a lot of realtors, very few of us, even as a lender, we don't grow up wanting to be a mortgage lender. You don't grow up wanting to be a realtor. Most of the time, I have heard some people that literally as kids would just ride their bicycle around oogling at properties and that's what they wanted to be. But most of the time it's a process. So it's always a great story to hear where you came from. So what's your favorite part about your job?
I would say that my favorite part is definitely the dreaming. When I get to a point where we're looking for another property to start dreaming about, I have areas that I like to kind of look through and then just looking at the potential. But it's so awesome to be able to look at a house and realize there's so much potential there. And it's a house that typically nobody would ever give a second chance or look at. Most people would just go on by and think, I would never live there. And so that chance to go in and go, okay, what can we change? What is like a golden nugget inside this house? And, how can we just bring life back to it? But I also have realized that with the last property we just did, I didn't realize how much of an important element it was of the neighborhood, of realizing like, who do you see outside walking the sidewalks? Who's watching you look at the house and just seeing like, is there life on that block? And this one property is kind of bringing it down. And there's a lot of fun elements. I can't pin down one particular thing, but again, realizing the potential in a property and seeing if we can make it come true.
You know what I love about that, and just something that's just coming up on my heart when you're talking about that is, when you're kids, and especially those of us who grew up, when we used to play until it was dark and we knew all the kids on the street and, we were in and out of each other's houses. It was kind of a different time, but every house had a history and had some element of love to it. And sometimes, there's a death or there's a divorce or there's maybe there's a loss of job and a bankruptcy or a foreclosure or something that happens that ends up leaving the house feeling unloved or untaken care of. And it can become a black eye on a neighborhood. And when you come in and see the potential in a property, you beautify it and you fix that black eye and you put the love back into it, because then a family is looking at a property. Sometimes people can't see the potential in a property. So when you come in and fix it and make it look like a home again, and then a family can come in and bring their love back into it, it improves the whole community when you do stuff like that.
It absolutely does. The first property that I did that was a complete 100% full renovation, like demoed the inside, stripped out quite a bit of the house. And as we did that, we found things in the walls, which then some of my kids were like, wonder what all this is. It was kind of fun to watch them get really invested and realizing like we're starting a new chapter for another family.
Mm.
When we were nearing the end of that project, there was a guy that stopped by and it was kind of funny because it was kind of late at night. It was getting dark and I see this car rolling by and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm by myself. And, it's almost 10 o'clock at night. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness. And he's really watching, really watching. Finally, I just thought, I was just going to ask him, can I help you? It was the gentleman that grew up in the house that we were renovating it. And I mean,
Oh my
he'd been there for
god.
well over 20 years. And to see the look on his face of like, you brought it back to life, like, and exactly what you said, it just kind of over time had, gone down a little bit and just to see the life on his face. And so I'd asked him, I said, well, would you like to look through the inside of it? And he goes, oh, I would really love that. So we went in and I flipped the lights on and we changed a couple walls around. And he was just in shock and awe of not only to the level we brought it back to, but, making much better use of this space. But also there was an area in this house that was so cool. And when I very first looked through it, it was ironic because it absolutely scared me really bad. It was an attic space that you had to go up a ladder. When I went into the bedroom to like look through this house, it was down, but it was pitch black up in the attic. And so I was like, oh, not today. I am not going up there by myself today. Well, there ended up being a cute window that was covered up. And we went up and more or less totally restored that because it was a great space for kids to play.
Mm.
And so to watch him see that space, you could tell there was like so many stories. And right there, that was the moment where I was like, and this is why we put so much work into this. Like that was amazing. And to see the family that ended up buying it and, those moments of like just realizing like if we're here to help each other out, it can only make the space better. So, and all the neighbors, stopping by, curious, so thankful that we were doing this, asked if we were doing more in the neighborhood. And, it just made you realize like, this is what I want my kids to see. Like, let's help each other out. So,
That's really beautiful. I got so many goosebumps that you saying that. And it's so true that, brand new construction doesn't have any soul in it yet. It hasn't
mhm,
had anybody in it. And you guys are, I mean, obviously that home had a history and there was love in that house. And you
yeah,
guys brought it back to life. And I just think that that's so amazing. You have
yeah,
an interior design background. And very quickly into your real estate career, you started purchasing homes and renovating them yourself. But what
mhm.
got you so excited about those projects? Do you have a construction background or like how did you even want to start doing this? Was this inspired by your husband?
Yeah. So when I met my fiance, he is a construction manager. And so I loved going to like his jobs and just seeing what they were doing and just the ability to see that instant gratification, satisfaction of like, this didn't exist yesterday. And like, you're already, you've got rooms and walls happening and all that kind of stuff. I love being around it, the talk, and again, it's just, we're seeing like what is possible. So as I was around that, and then I had decorated his house in Boise, and he had said, "Hey, I want to do some new stuff, just to have at it. Here's what I'm thinking as far as costs. Do your thing." And so once I did that, like he was shocked, and I made him leave. I wouldn't let him help. I'm like, I don't need your help for hanging or doing lighting or anything like that. I would just prefer that you leave me by myself because if you see the mess and you see part of it you're gonna be like, "I don't know if I like that." But if you see the whole reveal, the end result, I promise you're gonna like it, and if not, I'll change it.
Mhm.
So, we did that, and as he saw the house and was like, "Oh my gosh, like, this is insane." It kinda started the whole road down the path of wanting to do real estate, but also helping people, whether it's staging or decorating, and I had already helped probably about 20 different people with decorating that all started purely from them seeing my house and just saying, "Hey, can
Wow.
you come to my house and help me?" And so I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's check it out. Like, what do you like? Give me these 5 things and I'll build it off of that." And then from there was a house that came along the one I was just telling you about. And it was just that moment of like, you know what? Let's just try this. Let's start with a small house that if it doesn't work out, you know, it's a lesson learned, but this could be amazing. And that's kind of how it got rolling. And then once we had finished that one and kind of moved on to the next one, I realized this is where my passion is as far as, helping. And it's more in that category of a first time homeowner. Like the houses that I like to do, I don't go over a certain price point as far as how I would put it back on the market. Because at the end of the day, I just think that there's not enough inventory of fantastic new houses that are affordable. And it
Right.
makes me so frustrated. And it's like,
Mhm.
putting a person into a position that keeps them level in not getting house rich and money poor, that it's like, no, like you deserve to live in a great space and start your next chapter wherever that is in your life. But it doesn't have to be at a high cost level. So
Mhm. You and I were talking off air, before we got started. And I just want to circle back to that because, a lot of times when you have like a young couple that are wanting to maybe buy a first home, and they're looking at some of the home options that are, something that needs some love or needs some renovation or needs something repaired or maybe just an update. But
right,
sometimes, and we're seeing more and more in this day and age, where the couple doesn't have the ability to do the work themselves. They don't have any construction background. They don't know how to do
right,
any of that stuff. So then you start looking at, well, you have to have extra money in order to pay somebody else to do that. And a lot of first time home buyers just don't have that extra liquidity to have somebody
hmm
come in and fix things. So they really end up wanting to buy a home that is ready made so they can just move in
hmm
and all the things are perfect about it. But those kinds of homes are pricing young people, first time home buyers, I say young people, just meaning that people that are just getting started in their real estate portfolio, lots of different
right.
ages, but it's pricing them out in our market to have a home that is perfect and doesn't need anything.
It is. And, the other part that I see, not only with the pricing of the house, but say they do buy a house that they think I'm going to do some of the work, but I'm going to hire some of it. I feel like a lot of times too, the opportunity of finding somebody that's actually going to show up to help them, but also what they're going to charge them can be very, very frustrating. On top of the fact that, like, how can you trust them? If it's somebody that has been recommended, that's always by far the best choice. But if it's somebody that you're literally just pulling a number from Google, like, how do you know you're not going to be taken advantage of, or that it's going to be the quality that you are hoping for? And I've had a client that we had that experience that when I came to help him and take over his project of his house, a contractor had very much taken advantage of him. So I had told him, and he just wanted to be done with the project completely, just wanted to sell it. So I had to explain to him, we have a small opportunity here if you just leave it like this. But if you allow me to come in with my team and I will take care of this and like no money out of your pocket, I will finish your house out and then let's put it on the market. Here's what I can. So my biggest thing is giving them the two options. If we sell it right now as is, this is what you're going to get. But if you let me finish it, I can get you this.
Mhm.
Whatever you're comfortable with. And same with clients that I've had where they find a house and it fits all the criteria, but it's just not quite to the level they were hoping for. And so then again, it's like if the other side will let me help finish it to that, then they're not coming up with that extra cash because now that construction cost is rolled into that mortgage
Mhm.
and it makes it way more feasible and doable for them. And then on top of it, they're just, they've got somebody in their corner that's going to advocate to make sure that the quality and that the work is done. So, yeah,
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what you're talking about is like, so say you had a buyer that came in to look at a property and they loved everything about it, but maybe the basement wasn't finished. You guys will come in and, suggest to the seller and to the listing agent that, hey, you'll come in and finish this basement out. And it'll be what the buyer wants. The seller can sell it for more money. The buyer's happier with the product and everybody wins. I mean, obviously, you're
right.
gonna get paid some to do that construction for them for sure, but you're plugging in gaps. You're fixing problems for people that wouldn't normally have a problem or wouldn't normally have the ability to do it. My husband does some handyman type stuff, just small job stuff because, a lot of our contractors are so busy building entire houses that these
Right.
contractors don't have time to do, a small basement remodel. My husband ended up getting called to a home where a
Mhm.
couple had bought this home and had planned with a contractor that they were going to tear out the bathroom and it needed a new hot
Mhm.
water heater and new flooring and everything in the bathroom. And the husband was going to do the tear out. And then the contractor was going to come on a specific date. So the husband
Mhm.
did the tear out and then the contractor didn't show up, Chris. Didn't show up. It
Yeah.
was the middle of winter and they didn't have a bathroom or a
Yeah.
hot water heater. And so
And
they had posted, I think, on Facebook or something, and I watched that stuff for him for just some of the small jobs that he and saw that they
yeah.
needed some help and he connected with them and was able to pop over there and put that together. So this is something that we're seeing on a regular basis is people that do need help with some renovation projects and not being able to get the help that they need that's trustworthy and accountable is going to show up and give them a
Yeah.
bathroom. They need a bathroom and he couldn't even shower.
Yeah. Unfortunately, this is not the first time I've heard this. And
Mhm.
I kind of jokingly say all the time to my clients, like, once we're done with this, if you ever need something or you have a friend or family that needs something, tell
Yes.
them to call me. Cause at the end of the day, I do feel like, jokingly that there are some contractors out there that, if a real estate agent calls you, they're going to be there and they're going to show up because they know they're going to, get the job done and that we're going to move on and if there's another house. But sadly, it happens more and more than you think. And yeah, so we've kind of gotten to the point too where if people reach out to us, even if it has nothing to do with a house purchasing or anything like that, I've told them I am happy to come in, bid it out, tell you what it's looking like, but also be honest of what our timeline is. And if we can jump on it, within a day or two and bang it out in 3 days, like there's no reason to make it lag. So,
Yeah, absolutely. And so what construction trades do you do?
well, I am a jack of all trades. I love to learn is my biggest thing, but I recently learned to paint. I got to tell you that is a therapy I can't even
Love
explain. Oh, it's glorious. It's so silly, but I love it. I love to do any kind of fixtures and hardware change out and all that kind of stuff. Of course, demolition. And then pretty much landscaping. I always tell my team at the end of the day, I am the person, if you don't have time to do projects that's a little small, put me on it.
Mhm.
But I've been in the mix with all of it. About the only thing that I finally have realized my limits is if something is a little on the heavy side. I realize like I'm just too old to be doing this kind of stuff. I'm going to need help. But
Mhm.
I've also done tile work. Let's see. About the only thing I guess I haven't really tried yet is carpet, but I don't know if I want to be doing that. But yeah, I am right in the project with them. When we start a project, we try to hopefully, depending on the level of how bad the house is, we always kind of push for like 8 weeks. And
Yes.
I'm there every day slinging mud or paint or changing out lights or, whatever needs to be done.
That is so
And yeah, and then I have 4 little helpers that love to come whenever they can get their hands on tools and be a part of it. They're right there too. So,
how old are they?
yeah. So my son is 15 and a half, and then I have 3 daughters that are 13 and a half, 11 and a half, and 9 and a half. And they absolutely look forward to when we start a new house. They want to be there for the whole thing. So
And they really can
it's
be
pretty
very
awesome.
helpful. My
Yes.
son's 14 and he's a phenomenal gopher and now he's stronger than I am and taller than I am so he can actually pick up
Hmm.
much heavier things and he doesn't let me
Yep.
carry anything heavy anyway. So
I love it.
takes care of me.
You're a good
So
mom. You're teaching them well.
well, so when you're looking at a potential home, what do you look for in the home? What are some non-negotiable things that you look for when you're looking at a potential remodel or a flip?
Sure. I haven't hit anything quite yet that it's like, oof, yeah, I don't know about that. I would definitely say that one thing that I definitely err on the cautious side is if there's any kind of foundation
Mm.
situation or issues. But i- what some people would walk in and see or feel as an issue is not necessarily always exactly what it is. I have a house that I'm about to start that has in the basement, it does have some cracking in the foundation. And when we first were looking at this house, it was like, okay, the second I walked downstairs, I could understand why it was still on the market. But a big part of looking at these properties is doing my homework too. It's a 102-year-old house. And when they poured the foundation 100 years ago, it's not the same way that they do it now. So
Mhm.
these cracks are actually nothing whatsoever. And so we had two different specialists come in and take a look at it just to confirm what we believed was happening with this. It's an easy, simple fix. So that has definitely taught me that when you walk into a house, what looks super scary is usually not. And it's the small stuff that you think, oh, that's no big deal. That's usually the scary stuff. So, yeah, we've yet to find something that's really been mind blowing, other than, my biggest focus when I look at a property is what can I turn around and put it back on the market for? If it's above that price point of $300,000, I'm not interested.
For the
I want
for
to
the
be,
house to put it back on the market at over
yep,
300,000? Okay, okay.
yep. I try to keep it at 299 and lower. Again, I just really, really enjoy knowing that I'm going for that ability for anybody to buy the house versus I feel like when I go above that, you get into a different bracket and a smaller audience that can look at it.
Yep.
And I want it to be something that anybody and everybody that is typically starting out or purchasing more properties, or like I said, whatever walk of life you're at in that stage of buying, that anybody can look at it. And so that's my biggest thing is what needs to be done and the purchase of that house and the construction, am I able to still put it back on and be at 299 or lower? And if that all starts adding up, then we start getting serious and we start going, okay, well, let's get our rough bid. And then what's our wiggle room left as far as the design and the decor of it. So,
I love
yeah.
that. Do you have any renovation projects that you're like, you're kind of just known for? Like, I always do this to every single house, or I get really excited when I see this opportunity in every house because I know I can just come in and slam dunk this thing that I do.
Oh,
Are there anything like that?
yeah, I would say right now, my big thing that I've been doing is I really love the butcher block for countertops and kitchens.
Same.
I think it warms a space like no other. I think it makes the whole area very functional. And I just think it's very fantastic. I love it. And we've used different kinds of butcher blocks. So, yeah, I think it's really beautiful. Another thing that I really love, and I have no idea where the fascinations came from, it's in my own house and I have a tendency to do it in other houses. I love lights. And I like a house to have lots of different kinds of lights. I try to put in smart lights so that you never have to come home to a dark house. And I
Mhm.
think that it comes from being a single mom for a hot minute there and just realizing like, leave every light in the house on if we have to. I'll put LEDs in, like, we don't need to have a dark house. So I just like to find really cool ways to bring in lights. I love any kind of a fixture that we can get on an app and change the color of it too. Like, why not? Let's have a party light in the bathroom. Let's do this. I would say those are my two things. And then I really, really love finding at least one or two spaces within the house, whether it's a really cool wall that is very custom
Mhm.
or just a space that it's like, okay, you wouldn't expect this in this price point of a house. Because, again, why should it be just this plain Jane house that you move into? Why can't it be finished with some specialty touches that a person just feels like when they walk in, like, oh my gosh, I love this. This is what I want to be in. This is what I want to wake up to. So,
I think part of like I'm bored with new construction. And every single time, I look at the houses with my clients and it's a new construction house and they all look exactly the same. The gray
mhm,
and white, the gray and white, all of this gray and white, and it looks cold to me, and,
yeah,
I'm very bored with the new construction things, and so what I love about what you're talking about is you're putting a lot more warmth and color, and there's gonna be, like, some '70s factors and some '80s factors with these older homes that are just gonna have those bones to them that are gonna
mhm,
keep it kind of like we were talking about that, these are really solid homes that they were building in the '70s and '80s,
mhm,
and then you bring in, you're up to date, but not necessarily. I mean, I think trendy can be you have to be very careful with trying to do things trendy
right.
because very quickly they become untrendy.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And the
Yeah.
areas that I try to look at as far as like exactly what you just said, it's like you want a touch of this is what I've been seeing in a lot of houses that I, maybe can't go look at right now. Those are easily obtained in areas that, yeah, it could take a little bit of money to update, but it's not going to crush the bank. Putting all new poles on kitchen cabinets. that
Mhm.
can really bring in that trendy look.
Yes.
But when you're finally sick of it, you can take those off, and whether you spray paint them or you repurpose them in somewhere else in the house, you'd be surprised at the stuff sometimes that we take out of a house that I'm like, let's hang on to that. I might be able to use that for something. And it never fails, whether it's my kids or my fiance or my crew, they just look at me like, okay. And then at the end, I'll bring it back in and they're like, I would have never thought to do that. But it's, yeah, finding those little areas that it's like, okay, let's not get crazy and take this too far, but you can bring those in. And we were talking about the 70s and 80s houses. I went through one recently that I was walking through and I was with some other agents and I was kind of joking. And every time we went to a room, I'm like, there's so much yes happening in this room. And, they're like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, you know, between the glass brick that you would see in bathrooms so that daylight can come in, but you can't see through them and stuff. I'm like, this is so cool. Like, keeping a touch of the old, but bringing it up to speed and finding the areas that it's like, okay, so this was obviously a big deal
Yeah.
in this house's time era. Let's work off of that. Let's
Mhm.
bring the cool out of this. Like I
Cool.
said, let's not have a cookie cutter new house. Like,
Yeah.
let's have it so people walk in and go, oh my gosh, I would never guess it. That's awesome. So
Yes. Yes. I love that. So, what do you think in a home, like if you were to pick up a home and you were trying to increase the value the quickest that you possibly could, what do you
mhm.
think is the most valuable renovation project for someone to do to a home?
I would say keeping goals small and just being able to achieve them. So yeah, don't go in and try to change walls. And,
Mhm.
when the person wants, oh, let's open this up and make this bigger. Well, you've got to find out, like, do you have load bearing walls? Do you have wiring in that? That's all going to be big stuff that now you got to bring in extra people that you're paying versus stuff that you can do. I definitely think that flooring is always a big, big way to improve a house. And if it is something that somebody's thinking, okay, well, we want to update this house, but we do plan on selling it. Well,
Mhm.
then you are going to keep your colors a little bit more neutral,
Right.
but layers. And I always tell people, I'm like, plan that they could be decorating with brown, black, white, or gray. So if you can
Mhm.
bring a little bit of all those elements in so that they can literally move anything in. So, flooring, and don't keep things so matchy matchy.
Yeah.
The flooring is fantastic. Another big one that a person would never even think of is base and trim.
Oh,
If you can go
yes.
around your house and pull all the old off and put new on, and there's your opportunity. Maybe you have wood colored trim that really dates the house. Pull
Yes.
that off and get some white stock that's just, big and thick and chunky, and it kind of makes its own bold statement. And again, it's something that is so fresh and clean and really brings out this whole new, vibe, I guess, in the space that's not bringing on extra people. And now, we've gotten into a project that we can't quite handle. Another one too with kitchens, you don't need to necessarily buy new cabinets. Can your cabinets be resurfaced or painted? Can new poles and hardware be put onto them? Light fixtures. Light fixtures are a huge one. And even down to the simple things, like you say, if you, I like my light fixtures, but I just feel like something's not quite, bold enough as like when I go into a new house. It can be as simple as changing out your light bulbs and putting the same color throughout your whole house. I can't even tell you how many times I go into a house, I'm like, these light bulbs are making me crazy. But when you put all the same bulbs in your fixtures, it
Mhm.
is silliness how much it changes the whole atmosphere.
Yes.
So, yeah, so it's keeping it small and just walking through each room and going, if I was gonna like clean this space up and feel like I've just decluttered it, what does that look like? That
Mhm.
look like taking blinds or curtains down? Does it look like just, doing a fresh coat of paint? In a bathroom, is it just changing out maybe your faucet? And, simple things too, like again, you don't have to necessarily rip out your whole tub or do new tile. You can actually paint tile now. You
Wow.
can, yeah, it's the simple things of realizing like, okay, this will freshen this space up and I don't need to get crazy in here. That the house has got great potential. Let's just give it a light facelift. So,
Well, and I love that because, like, say a young person is coming in, and I hear this all the time where in fact, I've got a buyer right now that she keeps reminding me, mind you, they're first time home buyers with a limited budget. And she keeps reminding me that a laundry list of things that she requires for their first home is quite long. And
Mhm.
the last time she reminded me of that a few times. And the last time I visited with her, I just said, you might need to shorten that list and be a little bit
Mhm.
more realistic because we have
Mhm.
very low inventory. We're under 550,000 listings across the country right now, which is about 50% of where we were just a handful of years ago. So we are very,
Yeah.
very low on inventory. And, she's wanting to buy in a very expensive market. And, you can come into a home and maybe do some refresh things that aren't so invasive as like knocking down walls. Because, like you're saying, like this
Right.
has got to be something that you can do. And if you're not going to be in the home forever, it's not your forever
Yeah.
house. This is a for now house. So can we make
Yeah.
it nicer than we found it and
Yep.
freshen it up a little bit, maybe get some equity in it? You should be able to get equity in it because of that.
Yep.
Just think a little bit more realistically. I hear a lot of young people that are like, "We're gonna knock down this wall, and we're gonna completely redo the kitchen, and I want a much bigger bathroom." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh.
And
Oh
then
my
you feel
gosh,
like
don't
looking
do
at
that."
them, especially if it's a couple, and you feel like saying, "Do you enjoy your relationship?" I would strongly
Exactly.
suggest that we like think about this. Something else too that I don't think people realize or think about because it's not the pretty, it's not that instant gratification of like, oh my gosh, this feels like a whole new house. But another area too, if I was going to invest money to be able to get more equity out of my house, I would look at, does my hot water heater need to be changed? And if you do change it, I always tell people go as big as you can afford
Mhm.
because anybody that comes into that house later is going to go, well, how big is it? Anybody that has a family is going to say, I gotta see the hot water heater. There's 6 people that live in my house at certain points, and it's like, oh my gosh, that's a big one. Another one too, if especially in a house that's the 70s or 80s, when have the windows been replaced? Not
Mm,
only can that save huge on your bills, but it's a tax credit.
mhm,
And it's huge when you are looking at houses for a buyer. Is there a new roof? Is there a new HVAC or water heater? Are there new windows?
mm.
And siding? Those are all ones too that people don't realize those will be huge when it comes to the resale of your house. But also, is there an opportunity for any kind of tax credits for, any of that kind of stuff if you buy efficiency items? So it's just realizing like, okay, again, where can I get the biggest bang for my buck? So,
Something that we've had really great success with too is sod. Sod has
mhm,
been humongous when we've put it into all of our homes because,
mhm,
we live in Montana. We
mhm,
have a very short growing season. And a lot of times people, you'll find a yard that's either weedy or has like, a lot of dandelions or just hasn't been watered properly and it just needs a refresh. And sod is like paint where it's such an
mhm.
instant gratification. And
Yep.
if you, prepare the ground well and you lay it and you get a lot of water on it real quickly, it can take up root real quickly and
Right.
just have this instant gratification and curb appeal that you didn't have before with the ugly brown lawn. And, maybe you
Mhm.
put in even underground sprinklers too. It's so nice
Yeah.
when you have such a short warm season to be able to have nice, beautiful green grass you can walk across with your bare feet. And that just really
Right.
increases the value too. And it's not super expensive. It just takes some labor.
No. Yep. And yeah, and just reminding them, hey, this is one more room of your house that can be utilized quickly, or we can wait for the grass to grow. But absolutely. Yeah, definitely. And I truly believe that you have either won or lost your client the second they pull up to the house. Now,
Yes.
sometimes if it's a house that's, I guess I should say that's been renovated, if they're like, I don't know, they're going to go in with that attitude of, oh, well, but if
Mhm.
you they pull up and they're like, this is stunning. I love this. This feels like home. I want this so much. Like this is so perfect looking. And then they're
Mhm.
going to walk in with this great attitude and they're going to see all the amazing on the inside too. So it truly is that first impression, that first, 10 seconds of seeing something and
Absolutely.
you've either gained them or slowly losing them
Yeah.
the second you pull
Well,
up
and
to
people
the
wanna be
curb.
proud of their home too. You can't
Yes.
help but, we always say we don't care what other people think, but there's something to be said of being able to pull up to a home that you're proud of. And when you have, a brown dirt yard because nobody's done anything with it or nobody's watered it in years, it's deflating. And so it's a quick fix. And in Montana, waiting for grass seed, it's never going to happen in the warm season. I always feel like the birds always show up and eat it, and it's all
Exactly. Yeah.
gone. So just outdoor, clean, clean, clean. That's the other thing too, is that soap and water are cheap, super cheap. And just
Mhm.
making sure a house is really clean, it's really gonna help things along. Fresh coat of paint, like you're talking about, new baseboards, all of those things for just making
Mhm.
everything clean and fresh.
Right. Right.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
So, your wealth of knowledge when it comes to renovation and flips, how do you coach your clients to see a potential in a house? How do you talk to them when you're walking into a home that could use some love?
I would say the biggest part is starting out, like you said, with that laundry list of what is it that we're looking for and trying to help them understand that at the price point that you are shopping in, this, and this is more than likely obtainable. But these other items, we're going to count those as the unicorn. If we can catch a unicorn in that list, that's going to be amazing. But as we walk through and they're thinking, well, it doesn't have this or that or the other, it's helping them understand this might be a stepping stone. Maybe this isn't the forever house, and realizing that let's look at the golden highlights of what is happening in this house. Maybe there's areas you're so focused on that you're not even giving this other area the attention and realizing, like, oh my gosh, I didn't even notice that because you're just so focused on that list. And just making sure that, like, at the end of the day, is the house really hitting everything that your family needs to do in a daily routine? And if it is, then some of that stuff can be figured out through the process and down the road. So, yeah, again, it's helping them see the potential and see a different perspective. Because I
Mhm,
think sometimes, when we're spending that, it doesn't matter what price point you are when you're buying a house, it's a lot of money.
mhm,
And I think that we expect, whether you're spending 200,000 or, 2 million, you're thinking, well, I should pull up to the curb. It should be wow. But that isn't always reality. What you expect, but maybe what your house at home looks like is two different things. It's like,
yeah.
oh, why? Wait a minute. Like, why would you think that? So again, just seeing that potential and helping them understand these things are really easy fixes.
Mhm.
These are a low cost. Here's how we can get you here. And, the areas that are something that's like, ooh, that's going to cost a lot of money, helping them see that this house doesn't have that. You won't have to replace this, that, or the other. It's sound. So, yeah.
Absolutely. So, do you think that other women seeing you visualizing the potential in the home, bidding the job, then even swinging the hammer and doing part of the renovation, do you think that that helps them feel confident in their own ability?
I do. It's been pretty awesome as, like I said, neighbors especially come snooping around and walking by slow, and they see me there every day and then showing them what we're doing. And I've had a few people that I've met that they would have never guessed that the houses that we've done could change that drastically, and that it ends up being, a woman there that's like running this crew of amazing guys that are so awesome to be willing to listen to me and put up with me. But also I've had the encounter of going and bidding jobs that maybe we weren't doing, selling their house or helping them buy a house, but that they were just really nervous about having men come bid it and then be the one showing up to work. And them seeing like, oh, you're a woman that's coming here to do this, and giving them a little sense of peace, and then making them realize, like, you could do this too. It's just finding the areas that, like, what can you see and running with it. And trust me, there's lots of times that I have to ask for help, whether it's calling my fiance that is a construction manager and saying, oh, here's what I think I'm supposed to do with this. Am I on the right path? And he's amazing. And a lot of times he very much, plays the game with me, and he's like, yeah, you're right on the right path. Let's keep going with this. But yeah, I just wish more women would realize, like, you can do it. If something's too heavy, you just ask somebody to help you. But at the end of the day, I think we don't give ourselves enough credit at the fact that just because the word construction is attached doesn't mean, it's necessarily just men that are going to be doing it. And it's been pretty fun too, because the guys I do work with, as they will be walking through and they'll give me an idea of like, we could do this in this room. This may be a decorating or, changing a room around. And as I might be like sitting there going, I don't think we're going to, I'm like, you know what? I like your idea. We're going to figure this out. Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
just because I want to do the construction doesn't mean you can't do the decorating. Let's
Yeah.
make this work. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think it's an avenue that women just don't think that they can be as heavily involved. And I think that sometimes we don't realize that our attention to detail and our patience to go a little slower can definitely be a big win, and that it's something that could be utilized in the trade. So
I love that. I love that. And remember that you can learn literally anything on YouTube.
I'm telling you, like one of my contractors and I, if it's something we haven't done before, I'm like, how hard can it be? And he was, YouTube it. I'm like,
YouTube it.
I love
Yeah.
it. Yeah. It
Yeah.
might take about 6 times of watching it, but
Yeah.
probably double the time it should have taken to do it, but we'll end up getting it. So
And then the
there's one
next
thing
time you'll know how to
guaranteed in
do it.
life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Next time
And
you'll
there's something guaranteed in life. There's always somebody out there that knows more than you, and you just got to find it. So
absolutely. Well, this was amazing, Chris. I am so excited to have talked to you. I'm so inspired. I hope some of our other realtor friends out there are inspired to, maybe you don't have construction skills as much or have a fiance that's as talented as Chris's fiance to help her with some of these projects. But, maybe there is something that you can help your buyers in looking past maybe some ugly spots on a home and get them into something that just needs a little bit of love.
yeah, excellent. I agree. I'm right there with you. I'm passionate about it.
Thanks again for listening to this week's episode of the Success Realtor Podcast. Just as a reminder, I'm the producing branch manager of the Wood team at Hometown Lenders. What we are known for are 3 things. Number 1, we close on time. Number 2, we keep our realtors in the sales seat at all times by keeping them updated on their current transactions. And number 3, when you entrust us with a lead, we follow up on that lead until they buy, fly, or die. Leads are never lost to our lack of follow-up. Our number 1 priority is for you to earn more money in commissions so that you can improve the lives of your family, community, and in turn, our country. So, can I count on you for that next buyer lead? I would love to work with you too. Also, if you're interested in being a guest on the podcast, please just reach out to my office. All right, we'll talk to you when you call in, and we'll see you on the next episode of the Success Realtor Podcast. Bye-bye.